Hello. Hello.
Here we go, introducing part 2 of my confidence conversation with Nnenna. So it was a sort of smooth transition where she essentially turned the microphone on me and asked a question about confidence that led to another 20 minutes of discussion about confidence. So here it is, part 2 of my confidence conversation with Dr. Nnenna Kalu Makanjuola. Enjoy.
Probably we should turn the camera back to you, because you've always been, I've known you since we were, what, 10? And you've always exuded confidence your entire life, literally. I feel like, some people are born with it, and some people like us sort of have to grow into it,
Yeah.
And I don't know where you got that from.
That is okay. So I'll make this part 2. Like Kalu turns the camera on me.
Yeah, I turned the mic back to you. Yeah,
it's a very good question, because in the time since I have created the Antwerp group, I've often wondered myself, what was my source of confidence? What is my source of confidence? And I can't pinpoint one thing. People talk about things like courage, for example. It takes courage to do this, but if it's not difficult for you to do, does it take courage? Like, people are not comfortable with speaking in public. I'm very comfortable speaking in public, and it really doesn't matter the size of the audience. I just need to know my content. I just need to know my subject. If I know what it is I'm there to talk about, I will speak about it, and I'm not worried about perfection, tics, and so on. I just have conversations with people. So it would not be a good measure of courage for me to use public speaking, because I'm comfortable with speaking in public. So it's really the things that challenge you that show you how confident you are. And I know that my upbringing has something to do with it, but it's not everything. But my parents 100% believed in me. And from a very young age, I believed in myself. And their believing in me is the foundation, as I see it, that they conveyed their unwavering confidence in my abilities, my intelligence, which was a really big aspect for me, because of our emphasis on education. We value education and being able to learn, to understand, to pass exams. And all of these wins, I'm sure, continue to build in it. I would say the foundational belief that my parents and even my siblings came to have in me was a big part of my identity when I left Nigeria and came to the United States. So I believed that I could do. I think it's more of whatever it is, I can learn it and I can do it. And so I would go for things. And it's interesting, because even if I didn't necessarily we might be able to call it fail. Let's say I failed at something wasn't quite the way that I thought it would be. I did not take it as a definition of me. It's more of, I looked at why it didn't work out, and then I moved on. So when that aspect of myself was shaken, I found it very, very disconcerting, and I hadn't thought about the fact that I was confident. And we talked about that when I started this. He said, of course you're talking about confidence, So I would say my theory is that it's rooted in having people believe in me, and then having those wins from that point forward, so that I knew I could do it, and I was just paying attention to other people. I was not looking at myself. I was just paying attention to the people around me. But when my confidence was shaken, now I started looking at myself. It made me a little bit wobbly. It's very interesting. I draw a parallel to this story of the story in the Bible of the disciple walking on water. And they said, oh, he looked out into off to the side, and Jesus was walking on water, and Jesus said, come out and walk on this water with me, or whatever it was, come to me. And then the disciple starts walking, and then when he looked away, he became conscious of how disturbed the water was, and then he started falling into the water at that point. It's really when you become too conscious of the challenge, when you take your focus away from your goal, from the thing that you set out to do, and start paying attention, that those things actually start to impact you. So I think confidence is like that in a lot of ways. It's not so much what's around you, it's what you're paying attention to, what you let affect you, that starts to take a hold.
Wow. I mean, it's this is a good insight into literally, since we've been young, even before we knew what the meaning of confidence was, right? If somebody came to us and said, "Oh, pick out the confident," you would be it, right? Everybody would know to pick. At least that's how I viewed you. You've always just had a sense of confidence. I can't find the word now, but you've just always exuded the confidence. And so I don't, you might not remember this, but it also sticks out in my mind. One time we were having a reunion and you said, "Everybody come with your self-esteem intact." I remember that because I said, yes, Idara would say that. And I think part of what you were, it's at that stage where we sort of finished college and everybody's like, "Oh, I'm getting a little chubby." Basically, you didn't want to hear it. It's like we're supposed to gather to sort of be with each other. It's not, "Oh, I'm feeling," it's as if you didn't want to hear, "Oh, I've gained weight of this." You said, "Everybody come with yourself."
That's so funny. I still use that expression.
Oh, do you?
Self-esteem intact.
I said, yeah, I remember thinking then, yes, Idara would say that.
I still say that, self-esteem intact.
But I remember that because sometimes even when I'm going out somewhere, it made me think about the way it's not that I was thinking of it consciously, but now putting it in the confidence language of what we're talking about now. But it just let me know, it let me think about the ways we even hurt ourselves by not, you come out and you start making excuses when nobody asks you, right? So
yes.
And so I sometimes I say that in my head, come with your confidence intact. I just tell your self-esteem intact, which to me is just a reminder that even if you might not be feeling all that, but whoever you're going to meet doesn't need it, until you bring it up. They probably aren't really thinking about it, but once you draw attention to it, then they can say, "Oh yeah, you did,"
Yeah. Okay, part of my confidence talk, Kalu, I have a line that's called "Don't spread your panic."
Oh, wow.
Because sometimes, we have preambles.
Yes.
We qualify the compliments. We've been given, nobody asked you. Nobody asked you, right?
Yes.
But and even something as simple as "no offense," but I tell my daughter, don't say "no offense." Say the thing that you want to say. Chances are the person is what you're going to say, especially for her, for what you're going to say, the person is not going to take offense. You're merely saying something. It's not your intention to offend the person. Then just say the thing. If you believe it's going to be offensive, still say the thing, but this preamble of "no offense" does not have a place.
Yes.
If I wasn't thinking you were going to offend me, you can rest assured that once you've told me "no offense," but I'm already offended. It doesn't matter. Wait a minute. You mean I should be offended? Hold on. Opposite. Yeah. But the preambles, you get a compliment. It's like, "Oh, this. Let's not downplay things."
Yes. We've all been guilty of it. I've been, definitely guilty of it. But I feel like at some point you just become aware, and that's when you start whittling away at the small things, because until you bring it up, nobody's really thinking about it, and people are not thinking about you the way you think they are. So
No, and it's when we've been letting some things in and start to qualify our own thoughts with it, and that may not necessarily be the case. And you might also you might be holding yourself to a much higher standard, and so what you think is not meeting your standard may really not be the case for the people around you. So while you're thinking, I could certainly stand to do better, which is fine, you might be exceeding people's expectations. So there's no need to start with, this could be better. Just say the thing, do the thing. Don't qualify it, and certainly don't dull it, dim it, diminish it in advance for your audience, where that may not even be their standard, their expectation. And there's some cultural differences too. I would say we grew up a lot around compliments a lot, that people would say the good thing for you, and so you didn't have to say it for yourself, and you could even be modest and it would not take away from you in any way. I thought about how there's so many parallels between our culture, and maybe not in California, but in the South and in some other parts of the United States, African American culture. Tell me if you've heard something like this, where someone says something like, Nina, you look so nice with this. And you say, I'm trying to be like you now, you know? And
Yes,
it's like it's a mutual compliment and it
yes,
doesn't take away
yes,
from either person. And then I heard something almost similar, but without from an African American where it's like, oh, looking good. It's like, I'm trying to be like you. And I was like, oh, this is an African
yes,
thing.
yes, yes, yes,
But
yes,
when we're all on the same page, it's okay. It's a cultural thing. But you're not always around people who share your culture. You're not always around. You're not always in your village. In which case, your response to the compliment then is, "Thank you." I said, just
yes,
accept compliments graciously. Don't qualify it.
yes,
Don't dull
yes.
it. Don't dim it. Don't diminish it. You know?
Yeah, it reminds me when I go to Nigerian functions and I'm still taken aback because you compliment somebody and they say, of course, I have a friend, she's like, oh yeah, I came to win the best, it always sort of takes me aback and then I remember, oh yeah, and I love that. And sometimes I question why this shouldn't shock me, but we've sort of been now conditioned to deflecting the compliments,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So but every time I'm at a Nigerian function and you compliment somebody and they take it a step further, I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you're just stating facts. You're just stating facts
Yes,
at this point.
yes,
People
yes.
came with their self-esteem intact. I asked someone the other day. I said, "Do you think there's such a thing as a like a Nigerian filter?" You know, and I'm sure this is not just about Nigerians, but because we've been in a lot of social events.
Yes.
It's like, do you see me? That's an example. Do you see me? Hey, I'm looking good, though, And it's interesting because it doesn't take away from other qualities. It's not a negative. It's
Yes.
not. It doesn't even really. It's just facts.
It is.
People are
It
just
is.
stating facts.
Yesterday I was having a conversation with my mom while we were all together and we have this thing where we come from and I don't know how unique it is to other places, which I think it happens a lot in Nigeria too, where you just shower praises when a child comes. You
When a
start
child,
you start calling
yes,
them names, maybe
yes,
whoever their namesake and the grand things that they've done, like, is this my boy, this, the
hmm
king of this, the master of math. I mean, you just rain praises on them. And I remember even when, when I was young, when you go back to the village and people that haven't seen, every time they see you, like my grandmother, oh my gosh, she'll give me a litany of
I know.
I don't know, titles
Yeah,
before she gets to. And so my mom was just talking about that yesterday, how even with her, it was how it was with her and her grandmother and the older folks around her, and how it builds up a child's confidence.
yeah,
My youngest son is named after my mom's dad. So that's how the conversation, we picked him up from school and she said, oh, my daddy, my this. And then, started
yeah.
giving him accolades, and I think my son said, why do you always, in a good way, he was just curious. My
Curious.
mom said, oh, this is how we do it. And then she started reflecting how back then it really pumped. She said, even when I hear my grandmother calling me that, my walk changes. The way I walk
Yes.
into the room changes. And so, which made me think, wow, we've kind of forgotten that, how to pump a child up, but not with falsities. Because the other thing she mentioned is the way they say it. It's like, I
They believe
mean,
it.
they believe it,
They believe
So
it.
I said, oh wow, we need to get back to that.
Yeah.
And even for ourselves, just to
They have
remember
the
who you are,
Yorubas have the oriki, like all your titles.
Oh
Yeah.
yes,
And
yes,
there's a name for it. We have, but to your point, a child walking into being genuinely appreciated and praised. And it's interesting because we talk a lot about, oh, children have to be respectful, know your place, quiet, and so on.
yes,
But children are also very much, we got compliments a lot.
yes,
You walk
yes,
in, people were happy to see you. It was like a celebration when you
yes,
walked in. And the
yes,
grandma's house was really where it happened. You go to
yes.
the village, and you see the people, and they're like, "Ooh, it's like a celebration."
It is.
They admire you physically. They admire you as you're talking. That has to be great for the
Yes,
self-esteem of a child. It's
yes,
like, "Oh, I
yes,
am somebody. I am
yes,
important," and it's
yes.
validated by the people around me.
Around you, yes, yes, yeah. So yeah, because it happened yesterday ahead of our conversation, it just made me think, wow, these are ways that we built, that our confidence were
Yes.
built up back then,
Yes.
and we
Yes.
just didn't think much about how we've become who we are, because people here always say, you guys are so confident. I don't think we walk around thinking we're confident, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I see you as a hyper confident, but even when people say that to me, I'm thinking, yeah, you need to meet some people like that, right? So, but what is it in us that sort of gives that vibe? I thought about that yesterday, and I said, wow, yeah, that's a nice way to get a child to believe in themselves from a young age.
Yeah, and I believe we all had that growing up. And then and it was not the same. It was never quite as effusive, as exuberant as when your grandparents did it.
Yes.
And then your parents did it too, but your classmates too. It's like if
Yes.
you walk in at any given moment, and when someone is the center of attention, everyone was fine with letting them be the center of
Yes.
attention.
Yes.
If you
Yes.
walked in and it was your moment, everyone hops in
Yes.
on that.
Yes.
It's definitely a cultural thing. And I've seen it time and time again. It's like, oh, in your dancing. You somehow decide to do extra dance, people will
Yes.
make a
Oh,
circle
hype
around
you
you
up. Yep.
and let you be the center of attention and
Yes.
hype you up.
Yes. Yes.
And
And
hype
we,
you
we
up.
just had a way of accepting people's strength without it diminishing yours,
It's not a
So
competition.
you could say, oh, this person is really good at this. And when it's their turn, you just know, oh, Idara is good at this, and you'll be there all about her, but it didn't make you feel kind of less.
You are not in competition, and it didn't take away from your own
Yes.
ability.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation not too long about how a lot of times people make compliments relative. I was talking about how charismatic my sister was, and then someone said, "Oh, you're charismatic too." I said, "Okay, okay, thank you." But I'm talking about my sister, it is what it is. I'm not talking about me right now. I can stand to the side and admire her and admire these things, and it takes nothing away from me. It'd be interesting to figure out, where do those messages of it being a competition come from? And with a lot of things, like my current focus is on confidence in women in the workplace and in business. Are those messages stronger towards women, where it falls into a category of competition where there isn't one? There doesn't need to be one. It isn't a competition in reality. But so many things are done relative to another person as opposed to just standing on its own.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and I think maybe, yeah, as we move into places where, we get older, the stakes are higher, we're more aware of what's involved. It's sort of like secondary school. Maybe in primary school, you were at the top of your class, and all of you top of your class go to secondary school, and you're like, suddenly.
No, there's definitely a space for relative. First, second, third is not the same as 28, 29, 30. I get that. But there's still also a lot of room where you're talking about an individual, to let that individual stand on their own. The equivalent of standing back in that circle and hyping that praise until someone else gets into the circle. It also allows the people, I think a lot of times when the shy person gets in the circle, the hype is even more, because there's an appreciation that it was harder for them to take that spotlight, than it would be for the person who's boisterous and outgoing anyway.
Yeah.
It's so much of it is community. So much of it is people. We're not meant to do this life alone. And the more that we know the people around us, the better the quality of the relationships, the better we are too. We can adjust and meet people where they are, in a manner of speaking. It's like, okay, this person is more reserved. Let me not put them unduly in the spot. I can certainly challenge them, but I can supplement where they might not be feeling their strongest. But it's in getting to know ourselves that we have that also, that sort of relative relationship component to it as well.
Yes, getting to know yourself is key. Yes.
Getting to know yourself is important, definitely.
Okay.
Well, Kalu, so this, I don't even, when I stop the clock on this, it's going to be interesting to see how long this has gone, but it'll definitely be two parts. It's going to be our conversation, and then Kalu turns the camera on me. It's been great. It's been great having the conversation. Always Always a pleasure. We always go deep. I'm glad that we were able to have this fun
Yes,
conversation. I'm sure it won't be the last.
I'm sure it won't. So thank you again for having me. Really, I
Thank you.
appreciate you. I appreciate the support that you've given me. I mean, sometimes I think like you buy half of the Radiant copies. So thank you.
My pleasure. I want to get the word out there. And everyone, see, it's one thing if I'm bragging and then people get it and they say, oh, Idara, you know, the quality lends me confidence, okay? To give it away as a gift. And then even as I'm giving, I say, feel this magazine, you know? Feel this, but it's true, right? Feel this magazine. I mean, feel the quality. Look at
Yeah,
the pictures. Look at the images, and then
yeah,
people are saying, yes, yes, because it is, it's great quality. So I'm happy to give it. If it was not, then maybe I give it one time for support. But every single time, Kalu, I can't buy just one for myself. I cannot.
yeah. I
I
see
have to
that.
give it.
Yeah.
I have to give it to other people as a gift. So this your magazine is a gift to others too. So well done. Kudos to you. I'm sure there's more that you will do. What we'll celebrate what you have done now, which is major, and let's not downplay it at all. It's not easy to put a magazine together, as you learned,
Yeah.
and as
Yeah.
I found out from the side, it is not easy to put the content together. You're basically publishing a book on a regular basis.
Yes, yes. It's yeah, exactly. I know people say I shouldn't call it a magazine, but until we come up with a better definition, maybe Book-azine, but nobody would know what it is.
Yes.
So
They
yeah.
have words for something that you put on a coffee table that's not
I've heard
necessarily.
coffee table book, Book-azines, but it seems like magazine is just what people can
Hmm.
grasp immediately. But
Yeah.
once they see it, they say, "Well, why do you call it a magazine?"
Yeah, I
So
haven't heard
we're on the
Book-azines.
hunt for the name. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, that will be the next one. What we're going to call it. I guess for now we'll call it Radiant Health.
Yes. Radiant Health would work. Thank you.
Thank you, Nnenna. And until next time, have a great rest of your day. And I'm looking forward to doing this again with you sometime on the next topic.
Thanks. You too.
Thank
Take
you.
care. All right.